Hello everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am back with a birthday card using some of my favorite things products that I truly adore. It's a quite simple card but so much fun to create. So I'm using the You Keep Me Afloat stamp set as the main set. I'm also using the In Stitches alphabet, the Wavy lines stencil from my favorite things, and my most favorite paper pad Petite Gingham from my favorite things. So I started making this card by coloring in these images from the You Keep Me Afloat stamp set. An adorable one if you ask me. I just have a few of these fish and then I have the bigger image that will be sort of the birthday person. So I'm coloring with my Copic markers today. The paper that I'm using is Transotype Perfect Coloring Paper and I stamped these images using Gina Design Amalgam ink. Now, I wanted to keep the coloring quite minimal, also using a minimal amount of images. I want to have enough images as well as the fish. There I just thought of having some elements that jumped out of the water by coloring them orange. So that was kind of the idea. Now for the shadowing of the bigger image, I'm trying to keep the shadows on the right side of the image. But of course, well, the shape of the boat requires me to also add a bit of my mid-tone on the left side. But you know, I'm starting with the darkest color every time. I prefer coloring like this with my Copic markers. Most of the times I need to add 2 layers, but sometimes when I have smaller images like the shirt, I have enough with 1 layer. Now again, as I'm starting with the darkest color and I want my background on the right side of the image, I am starting there every time and then I'm working my way towards the lightest color. Also, I am reusing some of the color combinations, trying to limit the amount of Copic markers that I'm using, but that's something that I really like, to have everything cohesive like this. Although sometimes doing a rainbow is always lovely, most of the times I notice that I reuse marker combinations on my images. Now for the critter, I'm using a really soft brown combination. You can of course go darker if you want to, but you don't need to. And again, making sure that I start on the right side of the image or this critter in particular. And then I'm working my way towards the lightest color. Now this combination is actually a partial brown combination that I use all the time, but as you know, just limiting yourself with several combinations doesn't mean that you're limited to those combinations. So I have a brown combination with 4 markers. I know that I have 2 more to go even lighter if I need to, but just scrapping one of the darkest colors already gives you such a different combination. And that's what I'm doing here. I'm just reusing a combination that I love, but I'm not using my E47, E57 as I would usually do. So as I'm putting the caps aside of the image that I'm coloring in, if you want to check out which markers I used, in the description box I have them all listed together. I think it's quite clear what I'm using for what, so I didn't divide them for each part of the image, but I think you will manage. Also, my colorless blender is nearby. It's, well, it's one of those markers that I use every time I'm coloring. There is always an area where I go outside the lines of where I messed up, and nothing is as simple to just have that colorless blender to help you push back that color or just remove it if it's not right. So this band on the boat, I wanted to keep it white, but just to have the shadows going on, I used that BG70. And now I'm going to use the matching dies to cut these images out, and then I can continue with my background. Now for my background, I have this A2 sized panel. It's cut out using the basic rectangles from On My Elephant. It's one of my basics that I just use all the time. I am masking those edges because those are stitching details and I just love to keep them white. And then I'm going to take this new stencil that I got called Wavy Lines, and I'm going to ink blend a bit on this background. The other idea is to have one of the words of the sentiment larger than just stamping it out. So therefore I have the in stitches alphabet, and I'm just making sure that I like the layout. There is enough space for the bigger letters, and then I can start ink blending. So I'm also making sure that I cannot go over the stencil by adding that final purple tape, and then I will take my distress inks. Today I'm using Evergreen Bough and Stormy Sky. I started with this one solely just the Evergreen Bough, but I really wanted this water to match with the blue that I used on the boat as well as on the shirt. And I just found that this one was a bit too greenish, so I decided to go over it a bit using the Stormy Sky, but I'm limiting myself towards the top and then I'm blending it out towards the bottom. So actually the top matches quite well with the boat and the shirt. The bottom goes more towards the green, but I really like the gradient that I have here. It's the first time that I'm overlapping these two, but I really love it, and I'm going to remember this when I'm using this combination of Copic markers again, I think. So now on to my bigger word. There is this sentiment, and I love the punny sentiments from my favorite things, but there is one that says, "Fishing you the best day ever." And with the fish and then the one fishing, well, it was perfect. So I decided to find one of these colors in this Petite Gingham paper pad that I really liked, going together with the image, with the sea that I created, or the river, or however you want to call it. And then I made sure to cut out fishing using the in stitches alphabet. While I was doing that, I also tried to align it straight, the letters, so that actually the pattern would run through, sort of. Well, it's sort of worked out, but it's not perfect, but you know, we tried. So having cut that out, I laid it down, and then I could figure out placement, also the sentiment. The rest of the sentiment I still had to stamp out. So I did some masking. I masked off the fishing that is in front of the sentiment, and I just did that with some purple tape. I already showed you this in the past. I think it's handy to do it with some kind of tape because you can really fold it, and if needed you can really crease it in between the words where you need to have it masked off and where not. But just this is what working for me. You can also try to not ink up the fishing in this case, but there are some, well, challenges thinking about that. So my images, I'm going to add them using some thin foam squares. I think that's lovely. I love the height of these foam squares. They are from Scrapbook Adhesives. They are just amazing, and it's really easy to take off the backings, which I really love because it's always a struggle finding my craft knife or anything else to help me with the backings. So if I can do it manually, like with these, I just love it. Also going to add the fish using some thin foam squares. And then I'm going to figure out what the placement is of my fishing. I'm going to add it using some purple tape. You know how it's easier to align your sentiment or your word onto your mat that might have these measurements like mine. I am with the purple tape sort of tracing the width that I have to place the fishing. It's first may be strange. It's the first time that I'm doing this, but it really helped me. And then I'm using the grid on my craft mat to help me get all of these letters aligned straight. And once I have that, I can use some purple tape, lift up this word completely, and then I can bring that towards my card panel and add it using some liquid glue, or if you want to add some dimension, just adding some foam tape, that's also a possibility. So I'm testing out whether the width is okay, and once I am happy, I can add some liquid glue and add it on top of the panel. I'm going to use my T-square ruler as well to get it aligned straight, and then also a bit basing myself on top of the grid. I have my card base here. I'm going to add my panel using some adhesive roller, and once it's on there, you can decide to add lots of embellishments, maybe even glossy accents would be lovely, but today I'm leaving it just as it is. This is my card for today. This was my video. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and of course I hope that you love the end result. If you have any questions, you know where to find me. Just leave a comment down below and I will get back to you as soon as possible. I want to thank you all. I hope that you have an amazing day left, and I will be back soon with some new crafty inspiration. Bye!